So all they do is lie about Galadriel for some strange reason.
Evil is coming, um, but nobody else feels that. So she's kind of in her own horror film to a degree.
You needn't keep your distance.
So here's a great quote from one of the members of the community called the English Lady. Shout out to you. And her comment was profound, and I'm going to quote it. And in her comment, she quoted J.R.R. Tolkien's Unfinished Tales. She was proud, strong, and self-willed, as were all the descendants of Finwë, save Finarfin. And like her brother Finrod, of all her kin the nearest to her heart, she had dreams of far lands and dominions that might be her own to order as she would without tutelage. Yet deeper still there dwelt in her the noble and generous spirit of the Vanyar, and a reverence for the Valar that she could not forget. From her earliest years, she had a marvelous gift of insight into the minds of others, but judged them with mercy and understanding, and she withheld her goodwill from none save only Fëanor. And that's from the Unfinished Tales, page 222. Why is this important? It's important because they continue to lie about this character. And they do this because, to quote Alice Rose Dodds, the LOTR trilogy has aged badly. So, quote unquote, some of the most significant of these involve the disputes that happened between the Ainur and the Noldor elves, in which Galadriel was heavily involved. There are several Valar references in the Rings of Power series, because these mighty powerful beings had significant roles in forging Middle-earth and its people, and for the most part, these beings were benevolent and guiding. So, to be quite honest, having really gone through the Rings of Power, this whole benevolent bit that's supposedly happening in the Rings of Power, I just don't see it. And I don't really get what they're talking about. So I really don't get what Miss Dodds is talking about, because the Valar references were minimal, if any, and the universe that is explored in the Rings of Power is just one of pretty much complete darkness. No light. So Miss Dodds goes on to say, quote unquote, unfortunately, Morgoth was among them, and he wanted to destroy everything beautiful that Eru Ilúvatar had created. As a part of this mission, he created several wars which ultimately ended in the death of many, many people, including Galadriel's brothers. This set her down a very different path from the journey that the elves had originally believed their lives would take, and turned her into the angry, headstrong elf shown in the Rings of Power series, quote unquote. So by now you understand why I basically started off with a quote from Tolkien himself. So when I quote Miss Dodds, quote, however, it would actually be easy to argue that the Rings of Power Galadriel is a more accurate representation of Tolkien's character than the movies, because she certainly did go through this period of anger at the world, rebellion against the powers that be, and challenges in finding her feet in a world full of greater beings who believed they knew better. Close quote. The Galadriel of the Rings of Power is not strong-willed. The Galadriel of the Rings of Power, for most of the season, is a complete narcissist. Potentially even a malignant narcissist. She spends most of her time devoted to whatever mission she has in her head that revolves around her own personal neuroses or psychosis. This is not just based on some kind of rebellion, and it's only later in the season that we get any glimpse of some kind of character arc or anything resembling any kind of semblance of being like a real being that was coached in light. And I say that because if we go back to the quote from Tolkien, if you have a reverence for the Valar that are under Eru Iluvatar, then there would be some compassion. There would be another part of this being's personality. But the Galadriel of the Rings of Power is basically Sauron in a dress. And so most of the article from Miss Dodds is an actual misquote of the quote I started us out with. You want her article is from December the 2nd at Game Rant. You know what's really aging badly? The first season of The Rings of Power is really aging badly. So here's another quote. So there was a moment in the show during which it looked like Galadriel and Halbrand could have found love in different circumstances. And it's because they're both fueled by a burning desire to want to lead, to want to shape a world that fits their image of what it should look like. That Galadriel that is described there and the Galadriel in the Rings of Power is a Galadriel that has been completely invented by Amazon. It's not a Galadriel that's found anywhere else. And with that, I think I'll leave it there. You want, give us a like, subscribe, give us a super thank to support the channel, and stay up.
She's like, believe me.